The day my father's $36 million fortune was revealed, my stepmother smirked and whispered, "It's all mine now." But one sentence in his will shattered her world and changed mine forever. The day my father's will was read, I sat in a quiet office, my heart pounding. My father, Victor Langston, had built a fortune of $36 million, and with him gone, I thought I'd inherit at least a piece of his legacy. But before the lawyer opened the folder, my stepmother, Cassandra, leaned across the table with a smirk that cut like a blade. She whispered, "Don't expect a cent, Ethan. Your father and I discussed this. It's all mine now." Her words hit me like a fist. For years, Cassandra had treated me like an outsider, as if I didn't belong in my own father's home. Now, sitting there with my Uncle Marcus beside me, she looked utterly confident, like she'd already won. She crossed her legs, leaned back in her chair, and waited to see me crumble. I clenched my fists under the table, struggling to stay composed. I could see my mother, Laura, a few chairs away, her jaw tight with fury. She'd always shielded me from Cassandra's cruelty. But here, she was powerless. This moment would decide everything. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his voice calm as he began reading. Cassandra's smile widened with each sentence. She thought victory was hers. But then he turned the page, cleared his throat, and read one line that erased her smirk and let me breathe again. I never imagined I'd walk into a room where my father's life's work would be split like items at an auction. That morning, as I put on a black suit that felt too heavy, the grief was still raw. My father, Victor Langston, was gone. He'd been a titan in my world, a man who built his wealth from nothing and taught me the value of hard work. He didn't pamper me, but he always made sure I knew I mattered. Yet, in that quiet law office, I felt like I was about to be erased. The office was old, with polished wood walls and shelves of law books that smelled faintly of dust. Heavy curtains dimmed the sunlight, casting a somber veil and gloom. My Uncle Marcus, my father's younger brother, sat beside me. Marcus was a man of quiet strength. He wasn't rich like Victor, but he had a way of grounding me. When I was young, he'd tell me stories of how Victor landed his first real estate deal through sheer persistence, knocking on doors until someone gave him a chance. Marcus always took pride in my father and reminded me I was made of the same stuff. Across from us sat Cassandra, my stepmother. She wore a sleek black dress, her hair perfectly styled, not a strand out of place, but her face showed no grief. While I sat rigid, fists pressed into my knees, Cassandra was relaxed, her body angled toward the lawyer as if waiting for him to confirm her triumph. Her faint smile didn't belong in a room meant for mourning. I'd lived with that look for years, a look that said she was in charge and I was an inconvenience. Cassandra came into my father's life when I was 15. My parents had divorced 2 years earlier, and my mother, Laura, had done everything to keep us together. She wasn't wealthy, lacking the power Victor had, but she loved me fiercely. When Victor introduced Cassandra, I tried to be polite. She was younger than him, sharp and striking in a way that turned heads. At first, I hoped we'd get along, but I soon realized she saw me as competition, a reminder of my father's life before her. She'd cut me down with subtle cruelty. When I visited on weekends, she'd mock the clothes my mother bought me. "Your father works hard for his reputation, Ethan," she'd say. "Try not to look like you don't belong." If I spoke at dinner, she'd roll her eyes and remind me I was just a child. When my father wasn't around, she'd lean in and whisper things I'll never forget. "One day, it'll all be mine. You'll see." At first, I dismissed it as jealousy, but her words piled up like stones on my chest. I learned to stay quiet around her. My visits to my father's house grew shorter, my talks with him more strained. I loved him, but I hated the world she created around him. Still, there were moments that showed my father cared. He'd pull me aside, away from her sharp tongue, and ask about school. He pushed me to excel, to think about business, to never let anyone tell me I wasn't enough. "You have my blood, son," he once said. "That's worth more than any insult." Those words stayed with me, even as Cassandra tried to drown them out. Now, in that law office, I wasn't sure which version of my father I'd face. Was he the man who told me I was capable, or the husband who let his second wife dismiss me? My fear wasn't just about money. It was about whether my father believed in me in the end, whether I mattered enough for him to leave me part of his legacy. My mother sat 2 seats away, her face tense. She wasn't here for money. She had no claim to Victor's estate and knew it. She came so I wouldn't face this alone. She'd endured years of watching Cassandra belittle me, and now she watched with eyes like steel, ready to defend me if the insults started again. The lawyer, a tall man named Mr. Bennett, cleared his throat and arranged the papers before him. His voice was steady, emotionless. He explained that my father's will was carefully drafted and updated just months before his passing. Reading heavy, it echoed off the wood-paneled walls. Cassandra shifted in her chair, her smile growing as if she were already tasting victory. I could feel her eyes flicking toward me, waiting for my face to break, for disappointment to crush me. She wanted to see me defeated, to erase me from my father's story once and for all. My Uncle Marcus leaned closer, his voice low, so only I could hear. "Patience, Ethan. Your father was a man of principle. Remember that." His words were a small anchor in the storm inside me. I sat straighter, staring at the lawyer, bracing for what was coming. I had no control over the words he'd read, no power to change what my father wrote. All I could do was listen, hope, and hold myself together against Cassandra's cruel triumph. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a will. It was a test of everything my father taught me about resilience, pride, and patience. It wasn't only about $36 million. It was about the weight of my name, the measure of my worth, and the final question of whether my father's love had survived Cassandra's poison. The room tightened like a noose as the lawyer began reading. His voice was calm and deliberate, but each word hit my chest like a hammer. He started with small allocations, donations to charities, minor gifts to distant relatives. My mind was half present, half lost, replaying Cassandra's smirk and the way she leaned back like she already owned my father's empire. When Mr. Bennett read that Cassandra would receive control of certain household accounts and personal property, she exhaled slowly, tilting her chin upward. Her satisfaction was obvious. She glanced at me, her lips curving into a faint smile as if to say, "See, it's all mine, just like I promised." Heat crawled up my neck, but I forced myself not to react. My mother's hand tightened on her purse. She didn't look at me, but her eyes burned toward Cassandra with enough fire to scorch the table. Marcus sat upright, listening intently, almost as if he anticipated something Cassandra didn't. The lawyer continued, naming properties, accounts, and assets that went to her. Each one was a small blade in my side. A beach house in Miami gone. A vineyard my father bought years ago gone. Even his art collection, which I knew he loved, was placed in her name. Cassandra's confidence pressed against me with every line. She leaned forward slightly and whispered, loud enough for me, but not the lawyer, "You should have prepared yourself. You were never meant to be part of this." He wanted me to have it all. Her words stirred memories. The night she sneered at me across the dinner table. The morning she made me feel like a stranger in my father's home. The countless times she called me irrelevant. Sitting there, hearing her whisper, I almost believed her. What if my father had let her win? What if he'd forgotten his son? I clenched my jaw, fighting the sting in my chest. I'd promised myself I wouldn't let her see me break. My father once said, "Strength isn't about shouting louder than the world. It's about standing when others expect you to fall." Those words echoed, but they were fading against Cassandra's triumph. The lawyer paused to flip through documents, the rustling papers filling the silence. I caught Cassandra's reflection in the polished table, her smile growing, her confidence radiating. She thought the game was over. Then Mr. Bennett cleared his throat. "Before I continue, I want to remind everyone that this will was updated 3 months before Mr. Langston's passing. Every clause is legally binding and carries his final wishes." Cassandra's smile didn't waver, but mine did. My father had made recent changes, and I didn't know what they were. Had he shifted everything to her? Was this his way of moving on from me, from my mother, From the family he left behind? Doubt wrapped around my chest like a chain. I glanced at my mother, who gave me a look that said, "No matter what happens, you're not alone." For a moment, the pressure eased, but Cassandra wouldn't let me breathe. She leaned closer, her voice a venomous hiss. "Do you see now? He chose me. He trusted me, not you. You were just his practice family, and now it's my turn to carry his name." Her words cut deeper than ever. My fists curled under the table. I wanted to shout, to tear her smile apart with years of buried anger. But Marcus placed his hand on my arm, firm and steady. "Hold yourself together, Ethan. Your father wasn't blind," he whispered. Those words hit differently. My father wasn't blind. He saw through people better than anyone. He'd once told me wealth reveals true character, that money shows who someone really is. I wondered if this moment was what he'd prepared me for. Still, the minutes dragged like hours. Mr. Bennett's voice continued, listing stock portfolios, investment accounts, and corporate holdings. Cassandra's breathing grew lighter, like she was savoring the sound. My chest grew heavier with each detail, like being buried under my father's empire. Each asset was another shovel of dirt. Finally, Cassandra spoke openly, her voice clear. "I told you, Ethan. Your father trusted me with everything. You should find peace in that. He knew you weren't ready." My mother's face hardened, and I thought she might snap back, but she held her tongue. Marcus kept his hand on my arm. I understood why he was there. He knew Cassandra would twist a knife, and he knew I'd need strength not to collapse. The conflict wasn't just about inheritance. It was about my father's final judgment of me, whether he believed in the son he raised or the woman he married. In that room, with Cassandra's smug grin and the lawyer's steady voice, I teetered on the edge of despair. Mr. Bennett shifted, scanning the final page. He looked up, his face unreadable, and for the first time, Cassandra's smile flickered. It was brief, but I saw it, a shadow of doubt. I straightened, my heart racing as the tension sharpened like a blade. Something was coming, and for the first time that morning, I let myself hope. The air grew heavy, thick with silence between the lawyer's words. Every sentence read so far clung to me like chains, pulling me deeper into fear that my father had left me nothing. Cassandra's confidence was suffocating. Her legs crossed, one hand resting delicately on the chair, her smile unbroken. She believed she'd won. But then Mr. Bennett slid a fresh page from a folder. His expression shifted slightly, a tightening around the mouth, a quick glance at me before returning to the document. It was a tiny crack in the monotony, but it made me sit taller. Cassandra noticed, and her smile faltered. My chest tightened with dread and hope. I wanted to believe my father hadn't abandoned me, but Cassandra's years of taunts echoed in my mind, telling me I didn't matter. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't crumble under her gaze, whether I got nothing or everything. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. My father's last lesson was about resilience. I remembered his words from years ago when I struggled in school. "Ethan, the world will try to humiliate you. Don't hand it to them. Stand tall, even if you're standing with nothing." I uncrossed my arms, sat upright, and met Cassandra's gaze. Her smirk twitched when she saw I wasn't shrinking. For the first time, she looked irritated, as if my refusal to collapse insulted her victory. Marcus leaned closer and murmured, "That's it. Don't let her win before you've heard the last word." His voice was calm but firm, anchoring me. The lawyer continued, his voice steady. "To my wife, Cassandra Langston, I leave the household we shared, along with a lifetime allowance of $150,000 annually, to be distributed from the estate's trust." The words hit like a thunderclap. Cassandra's smile froze. She blinked, her hand gripping the chair. She'd expected millions, not a yearly allowance smaller than a month of my father's income. For a moment, her mask cracked, revealing raw fear. She quickly composed herself, brushing a strand of hair from her face, but the damage was done. She no longer looked certain. The lawyer paused, letting the words settle, then turned to the next page. My pulse pounded in my ears. My mother's eyes lit with a sharp gleam, as if she knew what was coming. Marcus gave my shoulder a firm squeeze, like he'd expected this all along. Cassandra's voice cut through, sharp and brittle. This can't be right. My husband would never limit me to an allowance. He trusted me with everything. The lawyer didn't flinch. Mrs. Langston, I assure you, these are Mr. Langston's final instructions, signed and witnessed legally 3 months before his passing. Her jaw tightened, but she forced a hollow laugh. Of course. I'm certain the bulk of the estate is still mine. Victor always said he wanted me secure. I stayed quiet, burning. Her confidence was unraveling, and the air shifted. For years, she told me I was nothing, that she was everything. Now, with each word the lawyer read, her foundation cracked. I leaned forward, my voice calm but clear. Funny, Cassandra. I don't recall my father saying he built his empire for you. He built it for his family. Her head snapped toward me, eyes flashing. You think you know what he wanted? She spat. You were a child when he made his decisions. You don't understand the man he became. I didn't raise my voice. I met her glare and said, I know the man who raised me, and he never turned his back on his son. The lawyer cleared his throat to continue, but in that exchange, something shifted. Cassandra was rattled, no longer untouchable. For years, she'd thrived on my silence, my hesitation, my fear. By speaking, by refusing to bend, I'd taken something back. Mr. Bennett adjusted his glasses and prepared to read the final clause. My chest swelled with anticipation and dread. I could feel everything building to this moment, the judgment on my father behind, his judgment of Cassandra and me. She shifted uncomfortably, her smugness gone, her hands clasped tightly, nails digging into her palms. She no longer looked like the woman who walked in certain of her power. She looked like someone fearing the loss of everything. My mother's hand brushed mine, a quiet reminder she was with me. Marcus gave a slight nod, his lips hinting at a smile. He'd known my father wouldn't leave me behind. I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. Whether the next sentence confirmed Cassandra's prophecy or revealed something else, I was ready to face it without fear. I wouldn't be the boy she mocked for years. I'd be the man my father raised, standing tall even against betrayal. The lawyer lifted his eyes, his voice firm as he read the final words of the will. The room leaned forward, waiting for the verdict that would decide everything. The silence was heavy as Mr. Bennett looked at the final page. His fingers pressed lightly against the paper, his voice steady but weighted, pulling every eye toward him. I heard only my heart thudding. Cassandra sat stiffly, her confident posture gone, her hands clenched in her lap. He began to read. To my beloved wife, Cassandra Langston, I leave the comfort of our shared home and a lifetime allowance of $150,000 a year to ensure she will never want for necessities or comforts. Cassandra's lips parted, her face paling. She opened her mouth to protest, but the lawyer raised his voice slightly, continuing without pause. The entirety of my estate, including all real estate holdings, business shares, investments, and assets totaling $36 million, I leave in full and permanent ownership to my only son, Ethan Langston. The words struck like thunder. For a second, the silence was absolute. My breath caught. I'd hoped for something, maybe a small portion, but not this. Not everything. Cassandra's chair screeched as she lurched forward, her voice sharp and desperate. What? That can't be right. There must be a mistake. The lawyer lowered the page, meeting her eyes with calm. Mrs. Langston, I assure you, this document was prepared with your husband's direct input, signed and witnessed 3 months before his passing. There's no mistake. Cassandra slammed her palm against the table. No, he promised me security. He told me I'd carry on his legacy. You expect me to believe he gave it all to this boy? She spat the word like venom. My mother sat straighter, her jaw set in quiet triumph, but she stayed silent. Marcus leaned forward, his voice even but edged with satisfaction. Victor was a man of clarity, Cassandra. If this is what he wrote, this is what he meant. He trusted his son. Cassandra turned her fury on me, eyes blazing. You think you deserve this? You were barely around. You let him down more times than you can count. He told me things, Ethan. He said you weren't ready. He said you lacked his discipline. I met her glare without flinching. For years, I'd let her words sink into me, but not after my father's final judgment. I took a deep breath and spoke, my voice steady. He may have doubted me at times, but in the end, he trusted me. That was his choice, not yours. Her hands trembled against the table. You manipulated him. That's the only explanation. He would never. Her voice broke, words choking in her throat. She turned to the lawyer. Read it again. There must be some hidden clause, some condition. The lawyer cleared his throat. There are no conditions. The estate belongs solely to Mr. Ethan Langston. Those were your husband's explicit instructions. The finality left no room for argument. Cassandra's face collapsed, her elegance shattering into panic. She pressed a hand to her forehead, shaking her head. This can't be happening. Inside me, something shifted. For years, I'd lived under her cruelty, doubting my worth, wondering if my father saw me as a burden. But here, in black and white, his faith in me was undeniable. It wasn't just money. It was his trust, his recognition, and his final lesson. I looked at Marcus, his eyes shining with pride. He gave a small nod, as if to say, "This is the man Victor raised." My mother placed a hand on mine, her grip strong. She whispered, "He believed in you all along." Cassandra's voice rose, desperate and ragged. "I'll challenge this. I'll take it to court. You can't just hand everything to him and leave me with scraps." The lawyer remained calm. "You're entitled to pursue legal action, Mrs. Langston, but this will is airtight. Your husband was deliberate in protecting his son's inheritance." Cassandra's fury twisted into something darker, her words spitting like broken glass. "You think you've won, Ethan? Money won't make you strong. You'll fail, and when you do, you'll wish you had me to guide you." I stood, no longer willing to sit bound by silence. My voice cut through the tension, clear and unwavering. "No, Cassandra, I don't need your guidance. My father believed in me, and that's more powerful than anything you could ever take away." Her face paled, lips trembling, but she had no reply. She slumped back, her fury collapsing into silence. The lawyer gathered the documents. His task done, that concludes the reading of the will. His words marked the end of Cassandra's reign over me, the cruel whispers, the end of her power. As I stood, the weight of $36 million rested on my shoulders, but it was more than wealth, it was vindication. My father had seen me, trusted me, chosen me. For years, I doubted it, but now I had proof. Cassandra sat frozen, her silence louder than her threats. My mother and Marcus stood beside me, their presence a shield against her glare. I walked toward the door, each step lighter. Before leaving, I turned to Cassandra one last time. "You were right about one thing. He made a choice, but it wasn't the one you wanted. It showed who he truly trusted, and it wasn't you." Her eyes burned, but she had nothing left to say. The will had spoken. Stepping into the hallway, I breathed deeply for the first time since entering the office. My father's legacy was mine, but more than that, his belief in me was carved in stone. Cassandra could never take that away. Walking out felt like stepping into a new life. The air outside was crisp, and for the first time in years, I felt free from Cassandra's weight. My father had trusted me. His empire, his legacy, his fortune, all were in my hands. But the money wasn't what mattered most. It was the clarity. For years, I doubted myself because Cassandra said I was unworthy. I'd carried her words like chains, believing she spoke for my father. I never asked him outright, too afraid of the answer. Now I had it. He hadn't abandoned me. He'd chosen me. As I walked down the law office steps, my mother was behind me. She placed her hand on my arm, steady. "Your father knew who you were, Ethan. He was proud of you. Don't ever forget that." Her voice carried relief and triumph. She'd watched Cassandra humiliate me for years, held her tongue, fought silently, and prayed for the truth. Today it came to light. Marcus joined us at the curb, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile. "Your father never doubted you. He wanted you to prove yourself, and you did. Now you carry his name. Carry it well. I nodded, the weight of his words pressing against me. $36 million was more than wealth. It was responsibility. My father had built it brick by brick, deal by deal. Every choice he made was about vision and grit. Inheriting his estate meant proving myself worthy of his trust. Cassandra stayed behind in the office, stunned and broken, her world collapsing. She believed she'd control my father's empire. Instead, she got comfort and security, but not power. That distinction mattered, and it was deliberate. My father had seen through her ambition and protected me. That night, I sat alone in my room for hours. The lawyer's documents were stacked on my desk. $36 million, companies, properties across the country. I should have felt powerful, but I felt humbled. My father didn't give me these to make me comfortable. He left them as a challenge, a responsibility. I thought of his lessons, the mornings he pushed me to rise early, the times he told me not to waste energy proving myself to those who wanted me to fail, the quiet reminders that his blood ran in my veins. Those lessons mattered more than any number on a page. In the days that followed, I felt the shift. Old friends called. Distant relatives congratulated me. Some with favors, others to latch onto what they thought was power. My father's warning returned. Wealth reveals character. He was right. I saw people clearly. But most importantly, I was free from Cassandra's shadow. For years, she defined how I saw myself. Every insult, every smirk, every whispered threat had dug into my self-worth. Now her power was gone, along with the lie that I was insignificant. When I visited my father's grave the next week, I stood in silence before speaking. You trusted me, Dad. I won't waste it. I'll honor what you built and ensure no one says your son wasn't strong enough. It wasn't just a promise to him, it was to myself. The lesson was simple but powerful. People will try to make you feel small, like you don't belong, like you can't stand alone. If you listen to them, you hand them your strength. But if you trust yourself and remember who you are and where you come from, no one can erase you. Cassandra thought she'd won, thought she could rewrite my father's legacy and strip me from his story. But the truth stood taller than her lies. My father believed in me. That belief is what I carry forward, more valuable than any bank account. Fire, thanks for listening. Sparkling heart if the story moved you. Share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment with the part that hit you most. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. Fire.